Hello everybody, it's your favorite West Virginia in space here, and power scaling. Now, I'm a personal fan of fictional universes and random discussions, so naturally I do occasionally look at the power scaling community, and it's quite fun. However, I have some complaints, more specifically about the concept of power scaling itself. Now, in case you're not terribly aware, the common parlance use of power scaling is the concept of scaling usually fictional characters' power based on who they can beat. AKA, if Superman can beat Batman, and Batman can beat Captain America, then Superman can probably beat Captain America. Now, granted, this usually works out in a somewhat normal way, as in, logically, if you're comparing direct feats, this works pretty easily. Feats are generally considered a concept of, what the character can do with a certain ability or skill. For instance, if character B can lift 5 pounds, and character A can lift 10, and character C can lift 20, then it's not too hard to figure out where they fit on a scale. However, things get dicey when you start, getting a bit abstract. Now, the usual term of the concept is that a character has a usual fictional how much powerful they are, or just a concept in universe, like how powerful someone broadly is. If someone can beat that character, then someone who's less powerful or on the same power level as them, then that character can probably beat them too. And this works in a very broad strokes, and it honestly makes sense. After all, if the Hulk can beat up someone and then he fights someone else of similar power, then that usually should track. But there are some issues. First thing is, I think a lot of these fights kind of ignore what amounts to circumstances. Now, granted, this isn't terribly common, as a lot of better power scalers will acknowledge that if character used magic item or went around this particular weakness that this other character doesn't know how to exploit, then logically we can't use that in the fight. But a lot of lesser power scalers, or more accurately, people who just want their guy to win, don't acknowledge this fact. Like, for example, if someone wished to use kryptonite to kill Superman, and then they fought someone else who was just as strong as Superman, then by the basic law of power scaling that most people use, that guy could win the fight. However, if that guy doesn't have a vulnerability to kryptonite, this is gonna look a lot worse. You know what I mean? And that's something that a lot of power scaling just kind of ignores. Really, it does. Usually it's not something as broad as kryptonite, but a lot of stories do kind of ignore circumstance and, just when a character exploit a weakness in a way that just doesn't make sense. But another thing is that sometimes certain tactics don't work because very rarely is a person's actual power quantifiable directly. For instance, if Thor and Hulk get into a fight, who wins? Now, we can make arguments about their strength and such, but they don't just fight on strength. They have other abilities. So just because a character is better at one doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be better at others. For instance, Thor is generally smarter than the Hulk. Plot twist, I know. But generally speaking, yeah. So just because the Hulk can overpower Thor, usually as Hulk is usually depicted as being stronger, doesn't mean he'll always win the fight, because sometimes the battle is decided via mental stats, basically. AKA, if Thor and Hulk get into a chess match, then yeah, Thor's probably winning the chess match. If for no other reason than he probably is the only one between the two of them that knows how to play chess. But a lot of house just kind of ignore it. They go, character B beat character A, so logically he can beat up your guy. And that's something really annoying. But the biggest complaint I have is actually this. Is that a lot of times, it's not as easy to say character A can beat character B. For instance, if you put me in an arena with the greatest marksman in human history, the greatest warrior of all of human history, and we both gave us pistols, assuming this individual warrior knows how to use guns properly, then yes, statistically that guy is going to win against me. But there's always the chance that the guy misses his shot and I shoot him before he gets to fire a second one and I win the fight. And power scaling just kind of ignores that. Often lesser power scales, in my opinion, will say, this character beat this character one time, and then we'll use that to justify and just don't have a good answer for when the character might lose another time. Because sometimes it's not about the fundamental thing of who's necessarily stronger, because there's so many circumstances that can go into a fight. For instance, if you were to put a, let's say, short guy, just an average American, in a field with, say a tank, what I mean, then 9 times out of 10, yeah, the tank's gonna win. But there's always the slim chance, or not so slim chance in some cases, that the guy is able to dodge all any tank shots, climb up the tank, throw a grenade down the tank, and then blow it up. Or heck, even remove the grenade. They could jump into the tank, beat up everyone in there, and then, I don't know, drive the tank off a ravine or something. Now, granted, is that likely? No. Is that statistically probable? No. But it could happen. But by the laws of power scaling, at least in the most basic sense, then this guy just beat the tank. Now, usually power scales kind of acknowledge equipment and such, but like a perfect example is if Batman and Captain America get into a fight, who wins? Now, funny enough, one of the few times this did happen in comics, or possibly the only time, it basically said that Batman and Captain America were basically evenly matched. They weren't, like, evenly matched on everything, but overall, they were evenly matched. And also, I have to agree as an example. If you look at most versions of Captain America and Batman, as long as in some weird Elseworld or what-if version, they would probably be evenly matched. Heck, the story only lets Batman win, basically because they said it was in Gotham and he knew the area and Captain America didn't. If the circumstances were reversed, it would have went the other way. And that's saying a lot. Now people say, oh, they want about prep time, but like, fundamentally, that's a perfect example of what I mean. Whoever would win a fight like that is very much just a coin toss. And I think that happens a lot more. Like, for instance, Batman shouldn't logically ever win against Superman. Superman is just so much more powerful than him. I like Batman more than Superman, I'm just telling the facts. But there's a chance Batman can win. He could find a trick him or whatever. I mean, he could theoretically win. But it isn't high. And power scaling just tends to ignore. They focus on raw damage numbers and not actual how combat would play out. I'm not suggesting there's a direct way to fix this, it's just something I think some people need to acknowledge. Just because your fictional character wins one fight, that doesn't mean they somehow win every other fight against a similar opponent. Or just because your favorite character lost one fight, doesn't mean they lose in every other circumstance. It's all about combat and the roll of the dice sometimes. And honestly, I think that makes fights more interesting. I try to design my universes around the concept of most fights are unpredictable. Yes, someone is probably going to win, but you never quite know. You know what I mean? And that's why I like our stories. The unpredictability is often half the fun, although good writing is better than all. But ultimately, that's just my thoughts. Do you have any other thoughts on power scaling? Did I get something wrong here? Ultimately, just comment down below what your opinions are, and I will see you all next time. And for the love of all things good, will people please stop saying, oh, Batman or the kid from Home Alone with infinite prep time or a prep time advantage. Any character is more dangerous with prep time. You give any fictional character time to prepare his fight, he's going to be better. That isn't somehow unique to Batman and the kid from Home Alone. You think no one else knows how to, prep time? It's ridiculous. Yeah? Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.